Just like Napoleon Hill says, all achievement starts with a burning desire. And I can confidently say that ever since I can remember, I've been obsessed with horses to the point where I would beg my dad every single day, Dad, please, please buy me a horse. And my family, my parents were blue collar workers. My mom had two factory jobs. So this idea of owning horses was just totally outside of the realm of possibilities. But
Where
I
did it
never
come
gave up
from?
on my dream.
Where did it come from?
It's hard. I feel like sometimes though sometimes we all have those passions or those desires that were just born within us. Some people are obsessed with surfing, some people are obsessed with studying biology or astrology, and I just so happen to be obsessed with horses.
Hello, I am Joan Brink, and we are podcasting on the Brink from downtown Prince George, British Columbia, Canada. And for all those people watching us from around the world, they say, we know where Canada is, we know where British Columbia is. Where is Prince George? Well, the one place they likely know is Vancouver. We are about 500 miles north of Vancouver, and for our European friends, about 800 kilometers. It's a smaller place, about 80,000 people. I've been here for about 60 years. It's nature's paradise. Within 50 miles, there are 100 lakes, lots of wild black bears, grizzly bears, caribou, deer, you name it, we have it. And so it is an amazing, amazing place. Lots of forest. So a very, very beautiful place. So today we have a very interesting podcast guest, and her name is Lucie Ptasznik. And Lucie is a national speaker, a coach, a serial entrepreneur who helps people transform their identity and rewire their subconscious mind to take massive actions towards their goals. I like that. She challenges entrepreneurs and business professionals to step outside of their comfort zone. I like that part too. To dream big and to become the best versions of themselves mentally, physically, financially, and spiritually. Lucie, welcome to my show.
Thank you, John, so much for having me. I'm excited and grateful to be here.
Yeah, and I love your bio, and you have an amazing background. Tell us a little bit about your past. Where are you from?
Yeah.
And where did you go to school, and then took the training and did whatever you did in between, and where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I grew up just outside of Detroit, Michigan, in the suburbs of Detroit. I like to say that I was a little girl with a big dream. Just like Napoleon Hill says, all achievement starts with a burning desire. And I can confidently say that ever since I can remember, I've been obsessed with horses to the point where I would beg my dad every single day, Dad, please, please buy me a horse. And my family, my parents were blue collar workers. My mom had two factory jobs. So this idea of owning horses was just totally outside of the realm of possibilities. But I,
Where
I
did it
never
come
gave up on
from?
my dream.
Where did it come from?
It's hard. I feel like sometimes we all have those passions or those desires that were just born within us. Some people are obsessed with surfing, some people are obsessed with studying biology or astrology, and I just so happen to be obsessed with horses.
Okay, now I
And
just have
so
to
I
tell
know,
you, I just have to step
yeah.
in there because my wife Sharon, and myself, we have 7 horses. And we
What
have,
kind?
and that's the next question. So, we ride both English dressage, and we have a farm on Vancouver Island, close to Victoria, in an arena and 50 acres. And so we've been involved with horses for the last 20, 30, 40 years. And I grew up in Holland where there are lots of horses. What kind of horses? Mainly
Oh,
warm bloods, some Spanish horses, and a number of other horses, but all with the purposes of dressage. And so that my wife has been riding, and she always dreamt about horses from the time she was a child. When I grew up in Holland, both my sisters were riding horses in northern Holland, and my oldest sister, she competed on the European level in dressage. So I grew up with it. A lot of the weekends we spend going to shows and being involved with horses. But I was a late starter. I started riding when I was 70.
I was going to ask you how long you've been riding. That's amazing.
Yes.
That's beautiful. Dressage is an incredible sport. And the warm bloods and the Spanish horses are absolutely breathtaking. So
They are. So
yeah.
take me further. I just had to make
Yeah.
that connection of the horses. So
No, thank you. That was amazing. So let's see here. My dad always said no, but I never gave up on my dreams. The day that I turned 16, I put an ad on Craigslist. It was the same day that I got my driver's license, and I said, I will ride your horse for free. And that was the day that I learned that when you can find whatever your skill set or your talent is and exploit it in the service of others, that's when you are going to find true fulfillment and unprecedented success on the other
agree.
side of serving others.
I agree
And that is
100%.
that's what kickstarted the journey, was a Craigslist ad. Next thing I know, I have all these people calling me, these yahoos with their unbroke horses, green broke horses that haven't been ridden, touched, or handled in 5 to 10 years. And at that point, I never had any formal education or instruction. So I was just a confident, overly confident 16-year-old with a brand new driver's license. So here I am driving out to all these different farms, and next thing you know, John, I'm getting bucked off and thrown off right and left.
Because the horses are delicate and not easy, and especially if you don't know the horses, God only knows what will happen, but falling off is all part of it. Hoping that you don't break
Yeah.
anything, so.
Yes,
Or get stepped
exactly.
on.
And so, yeah, I like to say that my angels were watching over me because despite the thousands of horses that I've ridden and hopped on their backs without knowing too much of their past, I've made it this far pretty healthy. So whatchamacallit, so I started riding these horses, and the next thing you know, I ended up meeting a horse dealer. So he would get in like 50 horses in a week, and I had to ride everything, and I had to sell it fast, quick, cheap, because if I didn't sell it fast enough, he would ship it to Canada to the slaughterhouses. And
Yeah.
so I was on a mission to save all the horses of the world as a 16-year-old, and that was really my first step into the world of entrepreneurship, where it was like the sky is the limit. How many horses a day do you want to ride? Do you want to ride 5, 10, 15, 20? And so I did that, and I sold horses all throughout high school, all throughout college. I graduated U of M, and then I got swooped up into the corporate world because I graduated for international business. And so next thing you know, I'm getting suited up every single day with like high heels and a suit on, working in the cube from sun up to sundown. And then in my spare time, I'm still selling horses. But at the time, I had the world's worst boss. And I don't know if anyone's ever had that corporate job, or, where it's like life in the cube, where you're just like questioning everything. You're like, is this really what it was all meant? Like, is this it? Is this life? Like, I feel like I was meant for more. And so I was faced with a really hard question, but I ended up deciding to quit my corporate job and pursue my passion, follow my dream of with horses. And I left the cozy, comfy corporate job and took a leap of faith and a chance on myself. And that was one of the scariest things I've ever done. And by the grace of God, I was able to build and scale a 7-figure business where I buy, train, and sell horses all over the country. And I accidentally opened up one of Michigan's largest public trail riding companies simply because I just wanted to share the gift of trail riding with everybody. It's one of my favorite things. And I don't say all of that to say, oh, hey, look at me, I'm so great. I say that because one of my core beliefs is you have to live, lead, and inspire by example. And I
That
know
is
that along the way, I've read a few books and followed a few different mentors that have taught me some very powerful tools on how to very deliberately or very intentionally create the life of your dreams. And that's how come today I'm absolutely obsessed with teaching people all about quantum physics and how to leverage the laws of the universe to intentionally create the life of their dreams. So that's the
and to
background of how
walk
I
the
got to
walk,
where I
right?
am.
And to
Yeah,
walk the
that's
walk,
right.
right? So quantum physics, tell us about that. What is it?
Quantum physics essentially states that we live in a vibrational universe where all things move and all things vibrate, that everything is made of energy, from the thoughts that you're thinking to the emotions that you're feeling to the chair that you're sitting on. Everything is charged energetically. Everything carries a frequency to it. And really understanding that all energy can neither be created or destroyed, and all energy is governed by law. And what I mean by that is if I pick up my phone and drop it, we can all agree that gravity is constantly at work. Whether we want to agree or disagree if gravity exists, that's up to us because we can't see it, but we know intellectually that it's constantly at work. And that's kind of how these universal laws work. Like, for example, the law of attraction. You can either be a default creator or a deliberate creator. And most people are living unconsciously, meaning that they have unconscious programs and patterns that are that are running their lives. And they are what we like to call a default creator, where they're just watching or experiencing their outside circumstances and allowing their outer world or outside circumstances that they have no control over to dictate how they're feeling internally, where the quantum model of the world kind of flips that around and says you can very intentionally begin to experience the emotions of the desire fulfilled or the wish fulfilled. And once you begin to embody the energy of the wish fulfilled, you'll then be able to attract that and experience it in your outer world. So that's essentially the premise of quantum physics. Really understanding that reality as we see it is very tangible, it's very susceptible, it's very malleable, and that we are the powerful, magnificent creators of our own reality.
Right. And so that then being said, now today, what are you doing today then? You are an entrepreneur, you're still involved with horses, you're still
Yep.
involved with other organizations or other companies, or how do you interact with other people in terms of communications? You are an in-demand speaker and do a number of other things.
It's being very intentional with time. That's the secret. But I guess, are you asking like what I guess what's your question? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
I'm just trying to understand what you do. So you started becoming very involved in with horses, and then I know you work for a company that you didn't like much because of the direction it was going in was not something that you wanted to do, and so then you left that company and you started doing trail riding, and then what did you do from that point forward?
Oh, and then essentially we've launched a coaching program. So
Okay.
what we have is a 16-week program that allows people to very intentionally rewire their subconscious mind, transform their identity, and begin to take massive action towards their goals.
I like that. So you do that online or is it in person or but
Yes.
or both.
It's primarily online. So we have group coaching, we have one-on-one coaching, and essentially it's really finding out what drives people and really finding out where they're at, talking to people, and more than anything, just listening to people because the language that we use reveals a lot about the belief systems that we carry. Our lives are a perfect reflection of the thoughts that we think every day are a perfect reflection of our belief systems. Because whether we believe, at the end of the day, whether we believe we can or we believe we can't, just like Harrison Ford said, we're right. Henry Ford.
Yeah, yeah.
um, so, whatchamacallit? So what we do is we find out where people are at, and then we have a three-part program that is centered around the first pillar is energy and understanding that we live in a vibrational universe, an attraction-based universe, and
Right,
really understanding how to manage our state. And I talk about how to access peak emotional states
right,
because at the end of the day, decision is what shapes our destiny. We are
right,
where we are today based on every single decision that we've made up until this point. So if there's what's the one thing that controls every single decision that we make? It's our emotional state or it's our energy. If we're operating in a peak state, in a state where we feel unstoppable, where we feel passionate and alive, just on fire for life, like we can hurdle over any obstacle that's placed before us, we're going to make drastically different drastically different decisions than we would if we were operating in a low vibrational space of fear or lack or insecurity or guilt or shame or worry. So therefore, like, and really it's breaking through people's conditioning and understanding that we're all conditioned based on our past, based on our parents' belief systems, based on different traumas that we've experienced or survived. And we all have these limiting beliefs that are shaping the lives that we're experiencing. And until we're able to become aware of these unconscious beliefs, unconscious thought patterns, we have patterns of focus, patterns of physiology of how we're moving our body, and patterns of language. And unfortunately, we can't change what we're unaware of. So the first step of changing anything is to become aware of it. And then
right.
once we shine the light of awareness, then we're able to interrupt that pattern and replace it with a habit or a pattern that does serve us. So the first step is really getting to know where people are at energetically. And then the second step is desire, understanding what they want, where do they want to go, what do they want. If they could have the life of their dreams and resources were of no concern, they had unlimited amounts of money, what would their life look like? And 9 out of 10 times when I ask people this question, they start listing off every single thing that they don't want. So then it's kind of like, well, you can't focus on what you don't want because what you focus on is where your focus goes, your energy flows, and what you focus on is what you're going to create more of. So this is how come people get stuck, or they're feeling like they're stuck in a rut or stuck in a loop or in a pattern. And it's just like, yeah, you have to really stop thinking about what you don't want and begin to focus on that which you do want.
And so a lot of times when they are stuck, they are defeated or depressed as a result of that, right? So what you
Yeah.
basically doing, correct me if I'm wrong, identify this, that they are stuck. And then from
Yes.
there on in, work through it. So the 16-week program, so that is step number one. Then where do you go
Mhm.
from there?
Once we find out where they're at, then we want to find out where they want to go, which is the second pillar, which is all about desire. And so when we're talking about desire, it's really vision based living. So I help people extract a vision for their life and for their business. What do they want their life to look like? And what do they want their business to look like? But instead of shaping the business first and then filling in what you want your life to look like, we switch that and we figure out what you want your personal life to look like, and then make your business work around that. So that way you're not a slave to your business. That's what we find out a lot. That's what seems to be a common theme, is that people are so attached to their business that it's all consuming in their lives, and their relationships are suffering, or their health is suffering, because they're pouring all of their time and attention into their business. So we figure out different solutions on how to help them overcome that, and how to come up with different solutions that are going to create more time freedom in their life, and that way they can go to the game with their kids, or not miss a meal with their family, and just be overall more present in their lives, as well as create more positive routines for their health. Start figuring out a gym routine and get that dialed in. Start doing morning routines, evening routines. Like, the power of the morning routine and the evening routine are huge, because our subconscious mind is the most susceptible right when we wake up and right before we go to sleep. So the first thing that we do when we wake up and the last thing we do before we go to sleep are essentially shaping our subconscious mind. Whether we're doing it, again, intentionally or unintentionally, we're doing it either way. So it's kind of like training a horse. You're either improving it, or you're not improving it. You have to be very intentional with everything you do.
So do you find that most of the people from an age perspective are middle age, or I presume, that's just a presumption, you don't see too many people in their early 20s, but likely more once they are settled down in a career, but they are simply not happy in terms of what they are doing, and they got, as you put it, stuck, and they don't know where to go and how to go about it. So because they have difficulty in analyzing what they are doing, and what are the steps taking gradually out into a different direction that will explore the things they always maybe wanted to do, or would like to do, or have become depressed, and becoming more aware of the reason for the depression, and seeing an opportunity to kind of turn that around in a more positive sense. So my
Yeah,
question is
absolutely.
likely, but you find it mainly males, females. What age groups would they be? I would presume the ones that are settled down in relationships, and the same applies to males as well as females, I would think.
I would say, so it's me and my partner Jason that we work together. So I would say that we have about 50-50 males and females. And I would say, as far as an age group, probably between 35 and 55 to 60.
Yeah.
So right in there.
So I find it very interesting, because what I see with you is that I was very young. I was born in Holland, and I'm going to be 84 this year, November the 1st, actually. And I was born during the early war years, and things were pretty tough in Holland. And obviously, we were invaded by the German army, and so we had a tough time, and we saw far more than we should have seen, and it affected me with PTSD and the fear of losing. My dad was drafted into the Dutch army, and for 5 years they didn't know he was dead or alive. My mom had 2 more children, 3 when I was born in 1940, and the last time they heard from him, when he was heard from in Rotterdam just before the bombing that killed thousands of people. So my mom had 3 little kids and herself in the early part of the year, and I still remember a lot of the war. And then we were liberated by the Canadian Army, April the 12th, 1945, and the Canadians made such an impression on me that I always knew from that point forward I would go to Canada to the land of my heroes. And then that became my dream, and that always stayed with me from the time I was 5 years old. And then the other part was that, talking about dreams in particular, I was not academically a success story. I failed grade 3 and I failed grade 7 3 times. So they said, what are we going to do with this guy? And a lot of people said, send him to the mentally challenged school. They said, no, we're not going to do that. So we'll teach him a trade. And so I liked lumber, and my dad had worked in the lumber industry. My grandfather was a master carpenter. So they sent me to a furniture factory at 13. And so I loved it. And then in the evenings I would go to the college and became a furniture maker. So that developed another dream for me, that I was always troubled by the fact that I failed in school, and for my friends that I used to have that went on to college and university, kids are hard on each other a lot of times, and they looked down on me, and I was not part of their lives anymore because I became a laborer at 13. So I always knew from the time I was young that I was just as good as, or no worse than, any of the ones that had been successful, but I didn't know exactly why. And then I tried to go to Canada when I was 17, and then my parents wouldn't let me, and then I was drafted into the Dutch Air Force for 2 years. And then I went to Canada when I was 23. And I wanted to start all on my own with nothing. Couldn't speak the language, didn't know soul, didn't have a job. Left with very little money. I didn't want any connections or contacts, and I flew into Montreal, took the train across Canada. Oh my God, 4 days, 5 nights. That's a long way. And then when I arrived in Vancouver, I knew I wanted to go to British Columbia. That's where we have all the timber. And so I went to the Vancouver, to the immigration department, and fortunately there was a fellow that spoke German, and I could speak some German. I told them what I wanted to do. I wanted to build a lumber mill. He said, go to Prince George. That is a boom town. That's where all the timber is, 500 miles north of Vancouver, 800 kilometers. And so that's what I did. I went on the bus, Greyhound, 12, 13 hours to Prince George, 60 years ago. I can still see the Greyhound station area here. And I came off the bus, and I came off the bus. I had a suitcase. I had 3 books, 2 sets of clothes, and I counted my money at least 3 times. And I had exactly $25.47. But what I had lots of attitude, right? So that even as a young child, I was always optimistic, and I always dreamed about things. I lived in a world of my own. And if it was difficult, and still have the same today, if I have a difficult day, I know tomorrow will be better. And I've always believed that. I avoid negative. If people are talking negative, I would say, get away from me. I don't want to be part of that. Passion. Whatever I do, I give it 125%. And then the other part is work ethic. And, I work harder than anybody. And even now, at nearly 84, I usually get up at 5:30 in the morning. I always make my bed, and I'm always in a hurry. And then now, when starting with nothing, I do have a mill, actually 3 of them, and then I have 10 other different companies, but it's not about that. But very quickly after I came here, could speak the language, didn't know soul, didn't have a job, started as a cleanup man, then a lumber pilot. I had to learn the language, but within a year, I was a superintendent of one of the larger lumber mills here, and then within 2 years, I owned part of another little mill, and within 10 years, I started a company called the Brink group of companies that has 3 silos. The one is lumber, the other one is warehousing, distribution, and logistics. The other one is real estate, residential, commercial, industrial, and the other one is media. And, so that's what I did. But even then, after I did all of that, people used to say to me, "Hey, John, you're so successful." I still didn't feel that way. And it took me 32 years till 1997, January 97, actually, that I went into a store here in Prince George. I still don't know why. And I picked up a book. And a book that I don't know why I picked up the book, but the actual book I picked up in January 1997, I have here. Driven to Distraction, written by Dr. Halliwell. And as I opened the book and started looking at it in the bookstore, actually, and the more I saw, the more I read, and I must have stood there for a half an hour going through it. Finally, the guy that owned the store said, "Are we going to buy it or what?" No, he didn't say that, but I bought it. And I wrote in the book, what was the book all about? It was written by Dr. Halliwell, medical doctor, and Edward Halliwell has ADHD, and he has written 18 books, and he is dyslexic. So I said, and I wrote in the book in Dutch in January 1997, now I finally know who I am. I'm ADHD and dyslexic, I found later. But so, so that kind of opened the door for me, and it changed my life. Then from there on forward, it took me, after I had the book and started looking at Google and all over the place at ADHD, started to understand it and the stigma around it. Now much less so, but still, obviously there I'm building companies, and what am I going to do? Go to the bank and then say to the banker, okay, make the proposal for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to build another company, and say, oh, by the way, I got a mental disorder called ADHD. They would say, have a nice day, so we're not interested. Obviously, I didn't do that. But the more I found out about it, after 5 years, I went to my doc when I was 62, and my doc was a personal friend, delivered out both daughters, and he said to me, "Hey, John, why are you here?" I said, "I think I've got ADHD." And so we looked at it, and yes, I do. And so since that period, it changed my life. My dreams were, as with you, to become successful, go to Canada, start from the ground up, to dream building a lumber mill. I did that in a number of times over in a number of other companies. And then it became my dream. A lot of people said to me, "John, you have such a history. What you should do is write a book." Now, writing books is not easy, as you know. And so I tried to write a book, stopped again, write again, stopped again. So I knew if I didn't do it about 5-6 years ago, it would never happen. So I wrote a book. It took me 80 years to live it, 20 years to think about it, 2 years to write it. And here's the book. Against All Odds. Very, very popular, actually. It's not so much how John is so successful. No, it's just the opposite. Going through all the ups and downs, falling down, standing up, and no different than you did with the horses and I did with the horses. I fall off the horse, I get back on again. And so we do that with all the things that made me successful, is that when things get difficult, I become much more effective in dealing with issues. And then the more I found out about ADHD, and then looking back at me, I was 13 when I was wondering how come my friends are so successful, and not kind of figuring out who am I? And it took me till I was 62 that I got the discovery and got diagnosed with ADHD. That is 50 years. and it affected,
Mm-hmm.
in a way, all the positive things and some of the challenges along the way. And I felt I had to write a book about it, and I did. ADHD Unlocked. Very popular, actually. It's not only about ADHD, but it's about people that have challenges with the traditional learning system that we have. It could also affect people that have trauma and or are slow learners for whatever reason. Dyslexia is one of them. And so I wrote this one, and it has been very successful. Even now, actually, the interesting part is you are my podcast number 292, I think. Now, for the people watching us that are interested in ADHD, Dr. Edward Hollowell, who is a medical doctor, probably one of the foremost specialists or knowledgeable individuals about ADHD globally, I interviewed him on my podcast number 203, On the Brink. And it's all over all the major media as my podcast. And so as we had the interview, and I suggested, at least from my experience, that I thought, and he is the expert, that I thought ADHD is probably 20% or so. He said, no, John, it's probably more than 25%. I agree with him. The other part about ADHD that I believe from all my experiences with corporations and being involved in board of directors, having seen management people, I always believe that probably I suggested to Dr. Halliwell that probably 50% of the successful entrepreneurs, either entrepreneurs or CEOs, are ADHD. He said, no, John, probably more than 75%. I agree with him. And so that's my story and my background. So after I discovered ADHD and got to know me, I became much more effective in my companies, and they started growing much more quicker. And it was since I was 62. I started writing books, and I'm working now on my fifth and my sixth book. The fifth one is coming out in July of next year, and the other one in April next year. And then I become very proactive in becoming a in-demand speaker and presenter and keynote presenter. And then I become very, very proactive in podcasting.
I love it. That's
So that's kind of the
incredible.
background. Yeah. So
So, so you were 62 and you found out that you had ADHD?
that I was diagnosed. Actually, I found out when I picked up the book from Dr. Halliwell, January
Yeah.
1997, but I was ashamed of it.
Yeah.
And so I didn't even go to my own doctor and talk about it until the more I found out about it, then the more I felt I had to talk to my doc and get the diagnosis on it. So yes, I was.
Did you take what did you do differently after you found out that you had ADHD? I know that some people are prescribed different medication. Did you ever try any of those things? And if you did, what was the outcome?
Yeah, I like the question, Lucie, is that yes, I did. After a while, I was already diagnosed. I said to my doc, just out of curiosity, some people say that, Ritalin is one. Maybe, should I have medication? And he said, well, if you want to, you can try some. So he proposed that I should take, how did he call it? What did I have again? I forget now. Scott? Adderall. That's the one. So he gave me a bottle in 2003 of Adderall, and there were 100 pills in it. And I tried 3, and they didn't do nothing for me. So after that, I didn't take them again. In fact, they're still in my desk drawer, 97 of them. So I never used them again. And so
Yeah.
the question is, yes, I tried it, didn't do anything for me, and I'm not sure what I was looking for other than People talked a lot about it, adrenaline and some of the other ones, Radlin, and a number of other ones. So I've now reconciled that in my mind, ADHD is a superpower. There's no question in my mind. People say to me, how do you do all the things that you do? You have 10 companies that you're running, you're writing books, you're an on-demand speaker, you're active in the community, and how do you do all of this stuff? And then podcasting, how do you do all of this? I say ADHD, that's how I do it.
Yeah,
So
it's a superpower. And I love that. It's kind of like life has no meaning, but we are blessed with the ability to give life meaning. And so somebody could have taken that diagnosis and then ran in the opposite direction and looked at everything that was bad or wrong or why they weren't enough or incomplete. And versus somebody else who surrounds themselves with positive content and positive influences, you understand that when you say that life doesn't happen to you, it happens for you, and that whatever circumstance crosses your path, you're going to see the good in it, then you're able to take something that might initially seem like a difficult circumstance or a difficult pill to swallow, and you flip it around and you're like, this is why I am so great. This is why I'm able to get so much done. And that's why I think that perspective is everything.
and then the other part about Lucie is, and I agree 100% with you, is that when I discovered it by reading the book, it opened up a whole new world for me because now I knew and I wanted to find out more about it. And the more I read about it, the more I explored it, the more I realized that it's not a liability, it's an asset. And then the other part, I find out on a daily basis that I encounter people that say, I'm ADHD, and that have never discovered it before or even mentioned it before, because the stigma is no longer a stigma. It still is in some ways, but now the other part that is important to me, and that's the reason for the book, is that the teaching system, the schooling system, is not based on dealing with people that may well be 30% of the population that are affected by ADHD and are slower learners, or in particular have difficulty focusing on areas that are of no interest to them. And I was one of them. And so in the book we talk about micro-certification as something that is explored already by schooling systems and by people that write instructions for learning, that micro-certification is that the skill sets that you want to acquire the skills for, maybe hypothetically speaking, take 6 months to learn. The schooling system in which it is packaged takes 3 years, and somebody that is not of interest to them would have difficulty remaining in a setting like this. And as I did in a lot of cases, I may as well not have been there because I lived in a different world, save and except if it was something that I liked and I was interested in. It would give me the ability to be better than most others. Like even in schooling, when I failed, I was very good in writing stories, and I was very good in numbers. But in terms of
Yeah.
all the other stuff, I was not interested in. And sometimes if I give presentations about ADHD, and I do several of them, but I speak to probably 100, 150, 200 people, whatever they are, is that I'm a very good presenter, and I know that. I have an amazing memory, and by the time I'm done, and maybe on other topics, entrepreneurship, whatever it is, I usually include a piece about ADHD. By the time I'm done speaking about not only the other issues, but about ADHD, a number of people in the room we know are ADHD, but the other ones, and a whole number of them are saying, damn, I wish I had it too.
That's fun. That's really cool.
Yeah. So it gives you a bit of a background of my life, and then what I like about you in particular, and is that where you focus on is that, and the reading of your points that you made is that all applying to the same area. Why do so many people feel stuck? Many people do, and defeated or depressed. And a lot of times is feeling they do not have the tools, or they feel lesser than, or it relates to whatever happened to their past. I did with me. The war years were difficult. And the other part about it is that a lot of people think that with the war years, once the war is over, everything goes back to normal. Well, it simply doesn't. It may take a generation, maybe longer. So it will affect you. And so the key then becomes the people that feel, for whatever reason, but I find a lot of times now, even with young people, they feel they are not good enough. Either they don't look right, they don't wear the right clothes, or people think about them that they are lesser than. They don't. You have to believe in you, because there is only one of you on this earth. Nobody else like you. And I believe that's very important, which makes you unique. Not better than, but certainly not lesser than. And everything, you can do everything. Anything is possible. But it starts with confidence of who you are. And for me, it took a long
Yeah,
time.
and you're a perfect. Yeah, I was gonna say, and you're a perfect example of that, coming from a totally different country where you didn't even speak the language and you showed up with 25 bucks in your pocket, and to be able to build the empire that you've successfully been able to create is incredible. So
at
I
eight
think that belief.
at at nearly 84. And then the other part is very important: health and fitness and staying mentally alert. So wrote another book about that. This one just came out about 3 weeks ago. Is Living Young, Dying Old. And that's a
I
picture of
love
me.
that.
I'm the oldest competitive bodybuilder in North America, and I want to live till I'm 120.
That's beautiful. I believe that you will. That's awesome. Well, congratulations on all of the books that you've written. They sound absolutely incredible. And I agree 1,000%. There's a very there's a very intimate connection between mind, body, soul, and our bodies are temple. So when we nourish it and we treat it with love, and the words that were our internal dialogue are in alignment with just positive affirmations of total self-love and acceptance, every single cell in our body is going to respond in a profoundly positive way. So yeah.
So what I see with you, Lucie, and the likely same as your partner, is that what I see in you is that, and what you show in your presentation and being part of this podcast, that, and the way you told the story about you, is that you're a very good communicator. That is obvious, and that you have self-confidence, but that your history was not easy either, and it took time for you to build that dream. How important dreams are, because horses was not something that came natural to you. It's not like me. I grew up in northern Holland, where there's a lot of farming and a lot of horses in the family had. But you found a direction to go. You build around that confidence, even at the age of 16, and you felt good about who you were. And then the other part that I hear from you, and it should be an inspiration to the people that listen to us and to this podcast, but also to your clients, is that to have the confidence in terms of it is all the things around what you were saying, being stuck and getting into a depressed mode that that you then feel defeated, and especially at ages where, and I hear it from a lot of people, they say, I'm too old for whatever. I'm not happy in what I'm doing. I say, change. Because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
happy, you take that home, it will affect your whole life. So find ways to change, and you know the and you know, so, and I believe that part is very, very important. And I see that with you, and addressing the issues that you are addressing are very common throughout the world, in my opinion. And it's the same issues that I podcast about, I write about. And the amazing part from my perspective is that here we are sitting and we communicating from the United States. Where are you located in the United States?
Michigan, so the
In Michigan.
Midwest. I'm in the
Yeah.
Eastern time zone. Yeah.
And there you're in Michigan, Midwest, and there I'm sitting in Prince George, British Columbia, and we have a dialogue here between you and me about all those things that are so critical, affect so many people, about confidence, feeling good about who you are and what you are doing. And I already know, as you do, that our podcasts are shown around the world. It's the new form of media. It's only at the beginning, and tens of thousands of people will be watching our conversation. And I find that
Wow, that's
is
incredible.
amazing.
Yeah. No, it's been absolutely incredible sharing this time with you. Um, and I'm grateful that I got to listen to your story and we got to exchange some ideas. And I feel like that really just embracing the positive side of life is the secret to success from in
It's an,
whatever background you're coming from.
exactly. And so how do people contact you again? I just want to make sure we put that on the podcast to be able to contact you.
Yeah, there's two different ways. If you go to the website is ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, and what we do is we'll like I had mentioned earlier, we have that 16-week program that allows people to intentionally rewire their subconscious mind for success. We've taken that program and we've condensed it into a 2 hour training that's broken up into a 6-part digestible series. And normally that retails on our website for $1,000, but we have a special promo code for you and all of your listeners. So the promo code is Brink, Brink. And if you use the promo code on our website, ultimatesuccessblueprint.com, you will be able to download that training at absolutely no cost. You'll be able to download the training totally for free, and it's filled with different strategies and techniques that you can start implementing today to wash away all of that worry and to intentionally just rewire your mind for success and identify limiting beliefs that aren't serving you, and to live in a space of awareness and intention so that way you can deliberately create the life of your dreams. And then the second place is on social media. We have a really amazing community. It's called Transformation Nation. So on Instagram, it's Coach Lucie Lynn, LucieLynn. And on Facebook, it's facebook.com/, Lucie's Bubble, Lucies Bubble, because you have to fiercely protect your bubble, just like you were saying, and and stay far away from outside negative influences. And if you
Exactly.
find me on social media, you will absolutely be able to connect to our Transformation Nation, where every single day we're pouring out just positive, empowering, inspiring content and that challenges people to step outside of their comfort zones and become the best version of themselves. And in fact, every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, I do a live gratitude meditation. So whether you're a seasoned meditator or you're looking for somewhere to start, I would love to have you Friday mornings and join our meditation crew.
I love it, Lucie. And to all those people watching us from around the globe, if you like what you see, and these are the podcasts that we do virtually, this is podcast number 292. And then I'm either a guest or podcasting. And then, if you like what you see, subscribe to a podcast and that of our guest, like it, share it with others, and add comments. In particular, watch Lucie's podcast and her, coaching that she has as well. Lucie, it was a pleasure and a privilege to have you on my podcast. Let's make sure we stay in touch. Show me some pictures or send me some pictures of your horses, and then
Absolutely.
and then we'll make sure we'll stay in touch.
I would love that. Thank you so much, John. Have a beautiful day.
You too, Lucie. Take care.